If you're just starting a GLP-1 medication, stop scrolling. These quick tips will help you from everything from nausea, dehydration, and losing muscle while you're losing weight. Here's exactly what to do and what not to do on your GLP-1 journey. Hi, I'm Lori. This is GLP-1 Journey in Review, and I would like to thank Mochi for sponsoring this video. Mochi is an excellent telehealth company that I have been using for years. We're going to talk about them a little bit later. First, you have to be aware of your dosing. Always start low and go slow. That's one of the biggest tips that I could give you. Titrate only as directed and try to stay on the same dose as long as you can. Another little tip is every pharmacy has a slightly different concentration of medication. So please make sure that you're reading the directions carefully so that you don't under or overdose, because that can happen. Even the same pharmacy sometimes uses a different concentration. Now, you should also always avoid skipping doses or doubling up if you found out that you did skip a dose, because this could create more side effects. I think you should track your systems after every injection, whether you have nausea, fatigue, or how your appetite is and how your hydration is. You should always rotate your injection sites: abdomen, thigh, back of arm. This will prevent irritation, and if you inject at the same place, you're going to get a little bit of scarring. And then when you inject your medication, it may not absorb as quickly and may not be quite as effective. So just a little hint. I'm a little guilty of this one. I tend to be a stomach user mainly, and I try to do it like a clock: 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 9 o'clock. Then I go in between. And I do log where my last injection is, because a week later, sometimes you just can't remember where your last one was. So I do log that. Now, let's get into some nutrition basics. You should always prioritize protein. Protein is very important, and most of your meals should have this. Choose small, balanced meals. You don't have to force food when you're full, but you should eat a little something for every meal. You should also focus on fiber. Fiber comes in veggies, beans, whole grains, and it helps your digestion move along. We all know that constipation can be a side effect of these GLP-1 medications, and eating fiber does help. I always try to get it the natural way. If I can't get it the natural way, sometimes I do resort to supplements. There's also fiber in fruits. And if you really want some fiber, if you're craving some bread, keto bread has a lot of fiber. There's some snacks out there that contain a lot of fiber. There's these new gummy candy bears. There's these new gummy bears that will also have a full day's worth of fiber. Now, it's always better to get fiber naturally, but sometimes we need help, because sometimes we just can't eat that much, especially when it's really close to our shot day. You should also try to eliminate greasy, fried, and sugary food, especially right after your shot day, because this can make your nausea worsen and some of your other side effects. I always try to avoid carbonated drinks on my shot day or the day after, because sometimes those could create a little bit of heartburn and even those dreaded sulfa bursts. We don't want those. Hydration is very important. Try to sip on some water all day long. Dehydration increases your side effects, so keep that in mind. The less side effects and the better the medication works. Because sometimes we're not really hungry, we're just thirsty. And along with appetite suppression, you also do get suppression of your thirst, and you could become dehydrated. When you become dehydrated, that's when you could get kidney stones, gallstones, kidney problems, and all sorts of things. Now, I add electrolytes like Element or any of the sugar-free mixes to my water because I'm not a huge plain water person. I will drink some, but I prefer it with some flavor. So just a little hint there. You should track your intake. I try to aim for 60 ounces of water daily. Do I get there? Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I do. Sometimes I kind of have to count my coffee. I know coffee does act as a mild diuretic, but it still is a fluid. Watch for signs of dehydration like dark urine, not urinating enough, fatigue, and headache. Right now, I'd like to take a quick opportunity to tell you about Mochi. Without Mochi, I think that my journey probably would have ended a long time ago because I'm on Medicare and they do not allow any weight loss medications to be covered. Mochi makes this more affordable. They only use trusted and reliable pharmacies, and I've been using them for about 2 years. I've never had a problem with them. I think they've got great customer service. My medication comes in this cute little bottle, which I use. I'm on vacation now. That's what I use to travel with it. And I don't think I have them in here. They're in the freezer, but they do come with some little sticks that you put in the freezer to help keep it cool. Now, Mochi has a $79 membership fee, so you kind of have to add that into the price. But with that $79, you get unlimited visits with your healthcare provider, which I've used quite often. It also gives you access for appointments with a dietitian, and it includes blood work and sleep apnea tests. The prescription, at least, you have to go get the test yourself. They do not provide the test. So thank you, Mochi, for letting me continue with my journey. First, I want everybody to check the link in the description for Mochi. It has a code there that you could use for $40 off of your first visit. And let Mochi help. They're just great people. I can't say enough good things about them. So we've covered hydration, and now we're going to go to muscle preservation. If you hit your protein goal, it helps tremendously with your muscle prevention because if you don't have enough protein and you start losing weight, it's not only going to grab it from the fat, it's going to grab it from your muscle. So if you're eating high protein, it's going to leave that muscle alone. I personally go between 80 to 120 grams of protein a day. It depends on your weight. Now, there's little things that you can do to help because I know, especially around shot day, we're not too hungry. There's shakes, and I use a product called Protein Gold, which comes in a little packet, and just sip it, and it gives you 20 grams of protein. You could get protein snacks, protein cookies, all sorts of products now that have high protein. And you want to try to make these protein. I just discovered little hint on how you could tell if you go to your supermarket and you're in the meat department and you pick up some chicken breasts and it says that there in one serving there's 30 grams of protein. You just add a 0 to that. And so if it's 300 calories or less, that's considered lean protein. Now, if you go to your ribeye steak and it's 35 grams of protein, you add a 0 and it's 350, but the steak is 450 calories, it's not lean protein. Not to say that it's not good and that you can't have it. It's just not considered a lean protein. Also, to get some more protein, I add some collagen to some of my shakes and some of my drinks. Now, keep in mind, collagen is not a whole protein. So this is kind of in addition, or I only count like half of it because it's missing some of the amino acids you need to make it a whole protein. Another thing for muscle preservation. Now, I know you hear this all the time: light resistance training or weight training. Try to do it at least 3 times a week. If you can't, any type of movement would help. Start with a small walk. Start increasing it as you go along. There's chair yoga, all sorts of things. While you're sitting there watching TV, grab a couple of dumbbells and just move a little bit. That's all it takes. The more movement, the better. The more you get into this journey, the more you're going to feel like doing this. Now let's talk about something very important: is managing your side effects. What I do is I keep Tums, ginger chews, and Maralex on hand. Those tend to work for me. Sometimes I use a dieter's tea if it's not too bad. Everything else, for me, this usually covers it. For you, it might be different. I always recommend people at least have this when they start the medication and probably through most of their journey, because you never know. This could happen at any time. You don't have to buy every little thing in the store for nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, and stuff like that, because a lot of it's going to go to waste. Just keep the basics on hand. Most of them you probably already have. So start with that. And if you find that you need something else, add to it, but you don't have to go overboard. Another little trick is have small bites, chew slowly, and avoid overeating. If you're constipated, increase your fiber and your fluids. The only times that I have gotten constipated during this journey, I know I wasn't drinking enough because I just got so busy at work that if I drank a half a bottle of water the whole day, that was a lot. So I kind of blamed that on me and not the medication. And once I got that regulated, I was fine. You may want to use a laxative. You know how bad your constipation is. You know what works for you. You need to try to do something, because if this goes on for a little bit, you need to contact your healthcare provider. And this is where Mochi comes in, because you can usually get a same day appointment, if not the next day, and they know how to handle this. They're experts at this. Another thing to do is just don't lie around right after you eat. Have some movement. Movement helps so many systems that it isn't funny. It helps your kidneys. It helps your lymphatic system. It helps your circulation system, and it certainly helps your digestive system. Keep in mind, emotional ups and downs, they're common, in certain foods can alter your emotions. Try to be aware of what these foods are and try to stay away. Practice some self-compassion. We're not perfect. This is a lifestyle. We're never going to be perfect all the time. So have a little bit of compassion and don't blame yourself for everything. Just move on. That's what I do, and that seems to work. Consider a little journal of what triggers you. This could help. Celebrate those non-scale victories, clothes that fit, confidence. What I tend to do when I reach a non-scale victory is I'll go out and buy that shirt or those pants that I wasn't going to buy before, but what the heck? I had a non-scale victory. I deserve a treat. And that treat is not going to be food. Supplements. You shouldn't have to take too many supplements. Keep it simple. The old KISS system. Take a multivitamin, a B12 if you're lacking some energy, some D3 or calcium if you're of that age. Magnesium helps with the constipation and with sleep. And that's pretty much what I take. I take a probiotic along with it. Some of the foods that I've been eating lately have probiotics in it, so I'm considering stopping that. I take a stool softener every day. I have for years. I've gotten off a lot of my supplements because I was just making very expensive pee. And that's one way you could save some money to get the medication. That and choosing a company like Mochi, which could help make these medications a little bit more affordable. Schedule your labs every 3 to 6 months. And again, Mochi can help you with that if you're not getting it from your healthcare provider. They're more than happy to do that because you should see how you're doing. And you also need to check your liver enzymes and thyroid panel, kidney function, make sure everything is normal. You'd be surprised sometimes if your thyroid level is off, that could hinder your weight loss journey and that could easily be fixed. And if you're feeling fatigue, dizziness, hair loss, talk to your provider. They're there to help. I want you to remember GLP-1 medications, they're tools. They're not magic bullets. They're not the cure. We suffer from obesity, and this is just a tool that we use to get this under remission and help us lose weight. And if you decide that you're going to stop taking the medication, it is strongly suggested by a lot of people that you titrate down. And keep in mind, if that doesn't work, you could always go back onto the medication. Continue concentrating on protein, movement, and hydration. It helps with your maintenance. And if you've gotten that far, congratulations. If you decided you're staying on the medication, congratulations. I think it's going to make it a little bit easier if you get off the medication, keep those good habits in mind, and hopefully it'll work. But remember, you can always come back on the medication. That's about it for this subject.